Okay. We seem to be going live. So.
That's okay, no worries.
All right, yes, we're live. All right, awesome. So, welcome. Jenna Talleda is a registered dietitian in Florida, the US, with over 11 years of experience. She's worked in many settings like the health department, early intervention, hospitals, and rehabilitation hospitals. In 2017, Ms. Talleda earned her certified intuitive eating counselor credential to help people develop a better relationship with food. It has become her passion and calling in life in order to help people start feeling more comfortable with themselves and begin to trust their inner wisdom. Jenna also has PCOS and personally understands the struggles women with PCOS go through on a daily basis. She also has a wonderful son, Mason, who is the light of her life. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us on the PCOS and Nutrition Podcast. And I'm so excited to delve into the topic of intuitive eating, how to develop a healthy relationship with food, feel comfortable in your own skin, and just, thrive instead of feeling like, restricted and unhappy with whatever, So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So let's start, let's begin with, tell us your journey, your PCOS, as we mentioned in the intro. Did you struggle with weight loss, dieting, the whole relationship with food? Can you just take us back? And yeah,
most definitely. Well, I was diagnosed with PCOS when I was 20, and after that, my weight started struggling a lot because I also had compulsive eating issues as well, and eating emotionally, out of boredom and loneliness and anxiety and all of those things. And so my weight ended up shooting up really high. And so I have been on the dieting roller coaster. I tried a number of different things, like low carb and some other different ones. And my weight did temporarily come down, but it always came right back up again. And that's what research is actually showing, is that 95% of people who intentionally lose weight will regain it within 2 to 5 years, and sometimes they gain more. So that's what I found, and I got to the point where it was just too much, and I hated being on a low-carb diet because I missed all of my favorite foods.
Yeah.
And it just got to the point where the deprivation just got so severe, and I ended up finding myself overeating on things and not being able to get myself, quote unquote, back on track again.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we've all heard that, back on track, just that course of consistent deprivation restriction, which always leads to binge eating, overeating.
Right, exactly. So, so that, in a nutshell, that was pretty much my journey. When I was on this last diet, this low carb, really the inspiration to lose weight, it came from my divorce. And I was hoping that when I lost weight, that things would make my life would be so much happier. I wouldn't have the problems that I was having, and I would be able to avenge my divorce on my husband by it, or my ex-husband, I should say. And then once I did lose the weight, it was like 5 minutes of, happiness that I got to throw it back into his face. But then all of my problems were still there. I still had very low self-esteem. It was based off of the scale. It wasn't based off of how I believed in myself. And it was just, I still had financial problems. Dating was all about physical issues. It wasn't about anything to connect with somebody. And so it didn't work out very well.
So, that's often, a lot of the time, when you get into that state of fixating on like weight loss, is because it's kind of something we can control. Because like obviously in like there's stuff in general life that we can't really control, and we feel like weight loss and food is something within our control. So I guess maybe that could happen.
It most definitely is. Yeah. It's very easy to go to food in our bodies because we deal with food every single day, 3 times a day for most people. And our weight is something that we look at all the time. We check ourselves in the mirror and look at the scales and whatever. And people can change their weight, but whether or not they can keep it at the place they change it to is a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about your PCOS a bit. When did you get diagnosed? Is your PCOS possibly the reason why you were struggling with like weight and maybe why you gained weight? Because obviously that's a common symptom of PCOS, the gaining of weight and the struggle losing of weight.
Right, most definitely. Yeah, I found out when I was in college, and before that, I was actually in a smaller body, and I didn't have an issue with weight whatsoever. But then when I got to college and stuff like that, my freshman 15 turned into more like freshman 50, and it was very easy to put on weight, and I most definitely PCOS had a big part in that, and also just the fact of my emotional eating and all of that too.
Yeah, yeah, because I can relate with that. When obviously I was diagnosed in college as well, but I feel like the whole emotional aspect and like the stress revolved around like college and study and like personal stuff in my life definitely obviously led to me gaining weight and having trouble to lose weight. But yeah, the whole piece is like an aspect that makes it that bit more difficult.
Exactly.
And definitely struggle that a lot of women with PCOS.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, do you want to add something?
Oh, no, I think you spoke very well on that.
Yeah. So how did you discover intuitive eating? Because you're now a certified intuitive counsellor. How did you, get to that place where you decided to, go down the route of, intuitive eating, which is actually what we were doing when we were younger, when we were kids, babies would cry when we wanted to eat, or, stop eating when we were full and all that. And obviously that changed due to the whole dieting, social media, all this stuff changed the way we, looked at food and how we felt, listening to our bodies instead of, listening to for example, a meal plan or following what someone else is eating because they lost weight. So how did you get to that stage? And, yeah.
Well, I believe that being on the last diet that I was on, where I just felt completely deprived on there, and I couldn't get myself back on track with it, and that was the starting point. But ironically, how I found intuitive eating was not even for myself. It was because the place that I was working at, they had patients who had eating disorders. And I needed some extra training to help support them. So intuitive eating is used a lot with people who have eating disorders. So I decided to go and study it a little bit more in depth. And I found that reading that book, the book was all about me. And every single line in that book was, oh my gosh, this is me.
Yeah.
And then it also was very interesting because being a dietitian and everything, this is stuff that I encountered all the time with my the clients that I've worked with in the past, all of their different issues. So I was like, wow, this is amazing. And it made so much sense. It connected all of the dots. And with that, I was like, this is what I need to do for the rest of my life. So.
Exactly. When I came across the book, I wasn't actually like looking for it. I was watching a YouTube video of someone who was trying to overcome their own eating disorder and, you know, restriction, obsessive behavior with food. And this person mentioned the book, and I was like, okay, you know, I think I'm just going to look into it. She seems to be benefiting from it. I wasn't really looking to actually, you know, I did want to, you know, overcome my eating disorder, but I wasn't in that frame of mind. I didn't really want to do it. I was still scared. But when I read that book, you literally absorbed, like, reading that book, and every chapter, every page was just like, this person gets me. Like, they actually understand, like, what I need to do and what I'm feeling. So it was just literally, you're just glued to that book, and you just finish it just like, yes, I actually want to take the steps now and overcome this thing, because what I was looking and reading out on that, you know, outside the world was complete utter crap, and it wasn't even helping me. This book actually like breaks down how to go back to your old ways of like growing up when you're not like been brainwashed by all these like wrong stuff.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
So, you know, so can you maybe break down to people who might not know what intuitive eating is? Like, what exactly is it? And yeah, maybe help people find out more about it.
Sure, most definitely. Intuitive eating is a non-diet approach to reconnect your mind and body together, to help understand what your body needs. And it's based off of understanding and recognizing your hunger and your fullness cues, you know, understanding and recognizing the food police voice and how to become more compassionate and less judgmental about yourself, learning satisfaction with eating, and also it helps with emotional eating as well, and finding the playful movement and things of that sort. So, so it's a wonderful way of living. Most definitely. I just, there's so much food freedom and so much peace, and the anxiety and guilt is gone with food, feeling uncontrollable. It's amazing.
Because of the feeling of being I can't talk today. Out of control around food is often like an indication that we're not actually eating enough food on a consistent basis. That's why often we go through that binge eating and that overeating. It's not because we can't control ourselves. It's because often we're not actually feeding ourselves enough for our body to be like, yeah, I'm being fed. I don't have that urge to binge uncontrollably or stuff like that.
Right. It's very true. Yeah, because a number of people, like binging can come from skipping meals, going for a long time without eating, just within a 24-hour time span. And it can go from denying yourself a specific food because it's bad and evil and you're not allowed to have it. And so, yeah, so it definitely goes back to all about letting yourself having things on a consistent basis. So it's not put onto a pedestal and you're not allowed to have it.
Definitely. Definitely go, back, making sure you're feeding yourself enough so you don't have those urges. But also, I just feel like the whole media reputation of like kind of reinforces the fact that fat is bad. Being fat is bad, and like the whole diet culture essentially kind of does promote eating disorders. And I mean, like what do you think on the whole dieting culture, and what should be done? Like, what's your opinion?
Well, the dieting culture is so pervasive. It's really It's hard because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's with between two people talking, having a conversation. It's with your doctor or other medical providers. It's on TV, on social media, on magazines, whatever. It's everywhere. So it's very, very challenging. But the thing is, with this dieting culture, it's a $50 to $60 billion industry. And so their job is marketing, is to try to get customers and to keep them. And so they will play on insecurities to make you think that you're not good enough the way that you are and you have to do something about it. And magically, because they have the magic solution to make that happen. And then when it doesn't happen, it's okay, you can come back, but now you have to pay an extra fee, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of studies that show that really with being in a larger body, there's actually the health issues are not necessarily what studies have brought them to be. Like people have actually, like the BMI was miscalculated and it wasn't based off of research at all. It was shown to be as much as 50 pounds off of what the risk of mortality was. So and the company that came up with those BMI tables was actually a life insurance company. So you know why that would be a big deal, why that's an issue?
Yeah.
Because they get to charge more if you're in their high-risk category. And what the research was showing is that what they considered their high-risk category was actually still within normal limits, you know, was still a very low risk for mortality. And it wasn't until you got to the actual extreme numbers that it started to show some sort of difference. But it's just, studies are actually showing that it's really not quite what people are making it out to be. So.
Well, I didn't know that they created the BMI. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. But I really don't like the BMI because also the fact that it's not a true representation of if you're healthy or not. Because, for example, for someone that might have muscle, the BMI will be like really high and they're assuming that they're overweight or something when it's completely wrong. So I really don't like the BMI. But yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah.
It is, right? I mean, if you look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, he would be considered in the overweight category. I'm sure he'd probably be considered in the obese category with as many muscles as he has, you know?
Yeah.
And because it's only just a measurement of what your height is compared to your weight.
Yeah.
So there's nothing else more to that number at all.
Yeah, definitely. What I wanted to touch on also when we talk about dieting, obviously there's, for example, for PCOS, we talk about how certain diets might be better. Obviously, the kind of dieting that we kind of prone against is the whole low calorie, that really severe trying to lose weight by following really low calories. But like if you're someone who's following, I don't know, keto or something like that, but it's obviously helping your PCOS, your symptoms, I guess there's nothing wrong as long as you're eating, you know, enough food. But
yes and no. I mean, actually, there's some things that go along with keto. Keto is actually, it's not very safe. It was not really intended for the purpose of weight loss, or it was really more to help children who had seizure disorders. But what it's showing, though, is that a high protein diet is very hard on different organs in the body, like the kidneys, the liver. It makes bones weaker, and it's just altogether, it's really not that helpful. But what I would encourage people with PCOS to do is, like you were talking earlier about being consistent with your meal times. getting an understanding of your meal mix, meaning what kind of combinations of foods are you putting together and how do they necessarily affect your blood sugar? I mean, are you going to have, if you have a diet that, or a meal per se that might be a little bit higher in starches and maybe a little bit lower in protein, that might shoot your blood sugar straight up, or it might shoot your insulin straight up in the air. But if you have kind of a nice blend of all different types of foods together, then that's going to be a little bit easier on your blood sugar. Yeah. And of course, getting in your fruits and vegetables, making sure you're hydrated, finding stress relieving activities, which I know is easier said than done. And, getting in that exercise, the joyful movement is going to help keep your insulin and your blood sugar in a good, healthy place, make it more effective and efficient. So that unto itself is going to be helpful for PCOS rather than necessarily cutting out any certain food.
Yeah, that's definitely the route I personally take. I'm not really a fan of any kind of elimination, considering going through the whole eating disorder. I do prefer eating an array of food, but making sure my meals are balanced. So I've got my protein, carbs, fats, all of that. Right. But at the end of the day, I'm also living that balanced lifestyle, flexible lifestyle, where if I want to have something claimed as bad or unhealthy, I'm always going to allow it. Maybe not every day, every week or whatever. It will be, fairly regularly, but it's when I want it, I will let myself in some way or another. Like, I don't really like going through that restriction. I feel like, because when you restrict something, your brain's always thinking about it. So you're always gonna crave it, think about it, and then at the end of the day, like usual, you end up binging on that one thing. So instead of just letting yourself have that cookie, for example, you're gonna end up having like 10 cookies. You'll be like, oh, it's all my fault. I can't control myself. I have no willpower. It's none of that. So always about allowing yourself in moderation and never just depriving yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I was listening to something the other day about with eating, it's a matter of incorporating joy with eating, but also trying to minimize any sort of harm that it might give you. And that is on a spectrum. It's not that you necessarily can't have a food that's might be a little bit harder on your blood sugar at that time, but it's a matter of that kind of that balance and everything that you're talking about. So,
yeah. So yeah, people should start testing it out. Allowing themselves. They don't go through that whole cycle, binging, restriction, all that stuff. But how can someone? Is it like some kind of steps or like so approach that people can, start tomorrow, for example, or today?
Well, the very first thing I would encourage is to go and buy the book, because the book goes into the science behind eating behaviors and weight and dieting and what happens with all of that. And to be honest, that is really what sold me on all of intuitive eating, is that it was backed by so much research. But outside of that, what I would say is become a scientist and start observing without judgment anything that you might be doing with your eating. Because when we start having judgment about our behaviors, it just creates shame, and shame doesn't help with anything. It just makes us feel worse and kind of leads us in the other direction. So if you can just observe and be objective about it and just say, okay, well, I wanted to eat this bag of cookies or whatever. So what was going on at the time? And was there something that I needed at that moment that I was trying to search for with the cookies? And kind of going with it based off that. And if you still wanted to eat the cookies, more power to you. But giving yourself that opportunity to explore why it happened and maybe help you on the next time that might occur again.
Yeah. But because relearning everything about food and our bodies, you know, it's going to take time for us to actually relearn anything, go back to our old ways before the whole dieting ever occurred. But if you can't obviously stick to it and, you know, have that thing in your mind that you really want it and you want to, you know, live a non-restrictive and intuitive life, it's gonna happen. It's the process, you know, it's never gonna be like, you know, it's always gonna be like a bit all over the place, but you just got to keep reminding why you're doing it. And
it's very true. It's very true. You will kind of have these moments that will be like learning experiences. We don't like talking about them as like mistakes or, you know, setbacks or whatever, because they're not. They're just learning experiences and opportunities to explore more. And and it's not a diet, so there's no rules to live by.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, you can take intuitive eating to the extent that you want to take it, wherever you feel most comfortable with your food freedom. And some women, especially ones who have, you know, eating disorders and everything, and they have some different worries about certain foods being added into their diet, you know, they might have to take it at a different kind of pace than other people would.
Yeah, definitely.
So
How can someone set boundaries around food and the whole diet culture with people that they love? For example, it's a bit hard. For example, if your friends are always talking about, you know, I can't eat this, I'm going to eat a salad, or all this negativity, how can someone, you know, just continue doing what they're doing? Because sometimes it can be really hard.
Right, most definitely. It is really hard. And I was just in a situation like that this past weekend where I was with a bunch of new people, and they are very much in the diet mentality. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking for me because I didn't want to be judged. I wanted to be accepted by them. So, you know, it was a little bit challenging, but the fact is, I mean, what you can tell them is, you know, I'm happy you found this way of life is working for you, and that you're feeling happy and comfortable and what have you. I've decided to choose this different way of going about it, and I hope you can respect my my decision on that and not discuss it. You know?
No, so, yeah, good point. Because go on.
Oh no. It's a little bit different for me because, you know, with being the certified intuitive eating counselor, is that I actually want to go and ask them more about their eating and why they want to choose things. But for a person who's not, you know, it's really important to realize that that's not your responsibility to worry about, and to just make sure that, you know, they understand that, yes, we can agree to disagree on this, and let's start talking about something completely different, like a fun thing that you just did, or something about your dog or whatever, you know?
Yeah, because at times some people don't always want to talk about certain things, but if that person does want to open up and speak about their eating, you know, the way they're changing their eating for, you know, for the better, somebody else might learn from that person who's going down the road of eating intuitive. I really can't talk today. Intuitive eating, and so I mean, just it's difficult when you're in a situation or a group of friends, and they're all set in one way of like not eating certain things, and you're sitting here trying to, you know, do something different. It is really hard because I've been in that situation so many times, and you just try and like explain to people, and they think it might be weird or stuff like that, but you just gotta go with it. It will make you happy.
It's true. Excuse me. It's true, and that might be like very easier said than done in a way. The fact is that it's about having confidence in what you feel that you're doing for yourself and remembering the purpose of what this is. You're searching for food freedom. You're searching for feeling more comfortable around food and not feeling trapped by food rules and somebody else telling you how to live. And understanding that your body does have mechanisms in place to help you eat things. And there's reasons why you might select things over other things, and that's okay. And so it does take that time to kind of build that confidence in yourself and to be able to stand up for yourself in those senses. But sometimes it's just a matter of taking a big, deep breath and saying, it's okay, I can do this. What I'm doing is not wrong. It's just different.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back a bit to like maybe reasons why we are triggered to maybe overeat or binge eat, and how can someone, are there ways they could recognize these triggers and maybe call them out next time it happens? Like, is there something maybe you do or recommend, or
Well, let's see, some triggers for for binge eating. Well, the first one is probably the fact that maybe not eating or under eating at the meals beforehand, and going for that long period of time without eating. Our bodies can only store about maybe 4 to 6 hours of stored energy, and after that it needs to be replenished, and blood sugar can bottom out and all of that stuff. And so if we ignore that and we go for longer than that, then we are going to be a lot more likely to go and overeat at our next meal to make up for what we missed out on. And it can lead to things like eating very quickly, and just not being present in the moment, more like just let's get this in as fast as we possibly can. And so yeah, fast eating is definitely a big trigger for binge eating or overeating. I like to also call it eating past fullness. So because for some people, when you say overeating, they might not know what that means. They might think that even like 2 grapes is overeating versus 1 grape. So
True, yeah.
Eating past fullness is what I like to call it as. But also restricting yourself from foods that you think are not allowed, those can also trigger episodes of overeating. Only letting yourself have something at a certain time, like for example, only Friday is pizza day, and then all of a sudden Friday comes and then you have to eat the entire pizza. And it's like, well, what just happened here? Why did I have to eat this whole pizza? Well, it's because on Tuesday you really wanted pizza. So kind of giving yourself that freedom to have the food that you're looking for when you're looking for it. So, and it takes that power away.
Great tips. And so, yeah, people should obviously, when they want to eat something, just eat it. So you're not, when that day comes, you maybe overeat past fullness or something, and make sure you're always present when you're eating, mindful eating, because obviously if you're not, taking a bite, chewing it, 30 times or however many times it's often recommended, you kind of just eat too quickly, and then you don't know how much you're eating, and you kind of feel sick as well.
It's true. Yeah. And I would say, because counting bites can get a little bit tedious too.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
So it's more about just staying present with just some different techniques with mindful eating is noticing the qualities of the food. So noticing the colors, the textures, the flavors, the smells, the temperature, and just sitting there and, maybe not necessarily going for your next bite as soon as you put the first bite in,
Yeah.
like that. And creating like an atmosphere that is pleasant and inviting, and that kind of stuff can really help with slowing peace down.
Yeah, definitely, that's true. Okay, this is gonna be like a different kind of question, but for people who do want to lose weight, can they lose weight following intuitive eating?
Right. Well, intuitive eating is not a weight loss program.
Sure.
The focus is trying to develop a better relationship with food.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody has their own natural set point weight, and it's determined by genetics, but gets offset by things like dieting and medications and what have you. Now, what can happen is when eating normalizes, there's a possibility that weight might change. But there's no promises, no promises one way or the other. It is, your weight is going to settle where your weight's going to settle. And research has been showing that it's actually safer for your body and less harmful if it stays stable at a higher weight than if it's going up and down all the time. So and it's also possible too that while you're exploring new foods and things like that, that your weight might increase and stuff. So
true.
The fact is that if we put the effort and the focus on weight, it takes us away from our body cues and what our bodies need. Because you could go onto the scale in the morning and say, oh no, I need to lose weight. And then your hunger comes and you're like, no, I'm not listening to my hunger because I need to lose weight. And then that just totally takes the intuitive eating, in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I also believe, obviously, when you're going through the whole experimenting with food, finding what you like, because obviously when you're restricting, you're not eating what you want, like what you truly want. So I guess also when you go back to just eating normally, when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, I mean, it could possibly help you, go back to, the weight you should be instead of, constantly, going up, because you're not going through that whole overeating and binging. You're just eating normally. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Excuse me. Yeah. So, with that whole thing, you're not binging or whatever, so you're not going to be taking in like more calories than maybe what your body is needing at that time. So it is quite possible that your weight will come down. It's just a matter that you can't say one way or the other because we're not psychics, and we can't get to an arbitrary number. But there is one other thing that I did want to say on that note, though, is that usually when people are concerned about their weight, they're actually concerned about something completely unrelated to their weight that's underlying that they might not realize. Like, for example, they might be looking for acceptance or control, routine, punishment, a variety of different kinds of things that they're hoping to get, with the diet. With their weight, they might be hoping to feel lighter or freer or, again, better accepted. And it's not necessarily about the number on the scale. It's about those things. And there's other ways of going about that can be a lot more effective than trying to control the weight.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because when you get to the whole controlling your weight, trying to stick to that number or go down, it's too much. It's too stressful. And then stress is not good for your hormones anyway. It doesn't help. It won't help someone lose weight if they wanted to lose weight. So at the end of the day, intuitive eating is great. I do recommend it for people to read the book as well, because it really changes your mindset and the way you look at food, the way you look at your body. Everything completely changes. And like you said, it's not a diet. It's all literally like a way of eating, a way of going back to when you were a kid and not having that disordered relationship with food, labeling food, because we're obviously labeling food all the time. This is bad, this is good, can't eat that, I can't eat that. Everything completely just, goes away gradually, eventually. And then you just start living the way you want to again without having that whole unhealthy relationship with food, and you can go out with your friends and enjoy your meal and not look at the menu or the calories beforehand, and just go there, look at the menu then and there, and be like, yes, I want pasta today.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. All right, so thank you. Is there anything you wanna mention, a tip, a piece of advice for people who are, looking to overcome this and start intuitive eating? What's your biggest tip?
My biggest tip, let's see. Well, I would just say patience with yourself and developing compassion. Patience and compassion are going to be really big during this whole intuitive eating process. And, when we've been sitting there and tearing ourselves down for years and years and years, saying that our bodies are not good enough, chances are self-compassion is probably not that strong. So it does take some while to develop that and make that stronger. And so it does help to have somebody there to support you, like a therapist or a counselor or somebody who's, able to help you walk through and be that compassionate voice to help it start ringing in your head by itself.
Yeah, because sometimes it's really hard to be just doing it on your own, because you might have that negative thought at one time, and then maybe you're okay, and then it comes back, and you're just feeling so overwhelmed. Sometimes that that other person who might be an eating therapist or psychologist or whatever it is, apart from your family or friends, someone who understands can really help the situation and help you, give that yourself some compassion and that patience you deserve. You don't deserve to be constantly butchering yourself, nitpicking everything.
It's true. It's very true.
So thank you so much. Can you tell us how our listeners can connect with you? Where can they find you?
Sure. Well, my website is my name, JennaTalleda.com. And I'm also on Instagram at it's intuitive_eating_with_Jenna. And Facebook, it's IE with Jenna T.
Awesome. I'll have that all linked in the show notes as well, so people can just find you there. And highly recommend everyone checks Jenna out. She's, so informative. She gives great tips and information about intuitive eating and loving yourself, respecting yourself. Yep, awesome. You've given so much valuable information in this episode. I'm so grateful and appreciative that you took the time out of your day to tell us all this information. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
Awesome.